did you have someone in your home doing school from home during the pandemic? How did you find it? Give us a text 048799 1233. We'd appreciate your insights on ABC Newcastle this Arvo. Of course, with the world of working and learning from home, we all likely downloaded a few extra apps to our laptops, our tablets, our phones and our other digital devices. And our kids used education-specific apps to help them get their tasks done. Human Rights Watch recently published analysis of 160 educational apps and sites used in 49 countries, including Australia. And the researchers have claimed that around 4 million Australian kids' privacy may have been breached through those apps. So what do we need to know? Should there be tighter controls and regulations relating to a child's privacy? Professor Ganna Pogrebna is the director of the Charles Sturt Cybersecurity and Data Science Institute and is with us now. Ganna, thanks for coming on. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi, Paul.
So what's the likely reason that our young people may have been tracked in some way by these applications?
Well, we're still waiting for the Human Rights Watch to release all documentation on it, but essentially I believe they have two concerns, that the kids' data was compromised in the sense that it was passed on to some advertisers, and also that their activity was tracked in the app, right? So they're basically being surveilled without their consent. So that's the essence of the problem.
Okay, so without alarming people who, use some of these applications, what sort of apps are we talking about?
Again, this is a good question, but without the technical documentation from Human Rights Watch, we don't know exactly what these are. But my understanding is that quite a few sort of the default school apps are there. Well, I have a 6-year-old myself, so kind of I'm also concerned as a parent.
I got signed up to one of the Disney subscriptions by my daughter. She was 6 or 7 at the time, and she was so used to seeing her parents go to their wallets or purse and get their credit card out, and she was smart enough to be able to put all the details in. I'm sure that many families have gone through this as well, and it does raise concerns, doesn't it, about the levels of consent our kids can give to software providers.
Absolutely, and in at Charles Sturt we do a lot of research on so-called privacy paradox, right? And this research kind of goes like this: we invite people to the laboratory, and usually we obviously work with adults rather than kids, but this problem is similar across the board. So we invite them and we ask them, do you care about your privacy? And they usually say yes, and then we give them some apps to download. And basically what normally happens is that people download these apps even without reading terms and conditions. Now the problem is that, the problem is not so much that someone has your data, right? Because, let's just say, Paul, do you go to a supermarket usually?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to supermarket, normally they ask you, do you have your Flybuys card with you, right? Mm-hmm. And many people have those. And basically, the supermarket collects your data about what you bought, right? And in itself, it might be completely harmless data, right? However, imagine that I can take your Flybuys data on what you bought in the supermarket and combine it with some other information, your geographical location,
yep,
your name, other things. Well, suddenly I know something about you that you don't want me to know, and that's a big problem, right?
See, that's the thing, though, Ganna, isn't it? We're knackered. Most adults, Google and Facebook know everything there is to know about us. They're a little bit of, primitive data mining would reveal everything that I've ever done in my entire life. I don't care about me. It's too late, I reckon. But when it starts affecting our children, it's a different story, isn't it,
Yes, absolutely. And when we talk about regulation, we shouldn't be talking just about privacy, but we should address all range of things that are there. So first of all, the fact that our kids are getting no privacy defaults is a big issue, right? So from the early age, they learn that, their data will be out there. And, I don't want them to think that it's normal. I want, for example, my child to be able to defend his civil rights and liberties, right, of which privacy is an important component. So that's one thing. The second thing is because some of these compromised applications are used by schools, they don't have, normally we have this right not to engage, right? If you don't like a particular TV channel, just don't watch it. If you don't like a particular social media, just don't have an account there. But when you're a child and you have to use certain software at school, you have to use it. You don't have a choice. Right, so this the lack of freedom of switching off is another problem. And finally, our lives depend on algorithms in many ways. So, for example, I'm a YouTuber, right? I have a YouTube channel and I produce some content, and this content is very scientific, right? So obviously I cannot make it every day. But there are people who produce things every day, and YouTube algorithm basically puts things on top if you are posting frequently, right? Yep. So it kind of encourages frequency. So basically, a lot of our choices of what we watch on YouTube would depend on what algorithm chooses for us. And, the worry is that our kids are also losing this ability to stop and reflect and think, that a lot of their decision making is algorithm driven. So this is something, again, that we should address. So it's not only the problem of, the data being out there and being shared and being combined, but it has a long-term effect on our children.
Yeah, those algorithms are scary, particularly if you're running under an illusion of something that isn't factual. We know that, if you embrace a conspiracy theory, for example, then that's all you'll see. People will just keep feeding, or the social networks will keep feeding your fears. Can I ask you firstly, or lastly, sorry, about the issue of changing regulations? I mean, if we can all, by just ticking the box, can contract out of our rights, is that a problem? Do we need some overarching regulation at a national, international level that says there are certain things in regard to information that we cannot sign our rights away?
Well, in Australia, we do have Australian Privacy Act, right? And it says that you should have privacy by default. So obviously, I mean, this issue from Human Rights Watch is really alarming. I want to understand what exactly, in terms of privacy is wrong with these apps, and we're yet to see the technical documents. But at the same time, we do have good examples of regulation. We have general data protection regulation in Europe, which is a European law, and they have this thing as right to be forgotten, right? So you can actually write to any organization that has your data and say, I want you to delete all data about me, and by law they're obliged to do that. So changing regulation is difficult. We do have good laws in Australia. We do have Australian Privacy Act that has some bits about privacy, but it's not holistic enough, right? So it needs to, my point is that it has to address all this range of issues. It should not just kind of look just at privacy, just at security. It needs to address all these things so that, we can make sure that the liberties and rights of our children are protected.
Professor Pogrebna, nice to talk to you. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Paul.
Ganna Pogrebna is the director of the Charles Sturt Cybersecurity and Data Science Institute. 8 to 6, reflections on the protest.